Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Gray Area.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Gray Area. I'll start with prayer, the prayer for Gray Area. God, please open my mind to new ideas, possibilities, and perspectives. Give me the ability to discern the truth. Help me to connect with others despite our differences. Let me not lean on my own understanding. Lord, we invite you into this conversation. Have your way.
I'll go right into the Gray Area introduction. Have you ever thought to yourself, what is God's perspective on my situation? Does it align with his? Introducing the Gray Area. The Gray Area is designed to challenge your thinking. We often don't realize it, but the way we're raised, the things our parents taught us, school, society, and experience all play a part in how we think and perceive things. Perception is everything. We're both mothers, wives, daughters, friends, ordinary women who love God. Yet our one goal, our one desire is to please him, integrate his way and his perspective into our lives. This is not always easy, especially when we've been programmed to think a certain way. However, God has purposed us to challenge others on their very belief system. Does it align with his? We often try to see things black and white, wrong and right, good and bad, but this thing called grace and love does not always allow us to see things so simple. Everyday conversations, discussions, and situations through the lens of God is our prayer. We invite you to listen to our conversation and chime in. Perspective matters. So we thank you guys for tuning in tonight. We just wanted to set a little house rules. We really want you to participate in tonight's discussion. So at any point you have something to say, you want to add, perspective, or question, all you need to do is hit *6. You'll be placed in the queue, and we'll be able to add you to the conversation. Kishore, you want to set the table?
Yes. So today we pose the Gray Area question as, do you feel that your thoughts and your words actually manifest, come to pass? And we're kind of continuing the conversation with the law of attraction. And pretty much the law of attraction is the ability to draw feelings, prosperity, people, circumstances, health to you based on your thoughts or your spoken word. So today we kind of want to explore if that has happened to you. Do you believe that, the way you think or the way or your thoughts and words that you say can bring things to you, whether it be positive things or negative things? So what are your thoughts?
Well, as I was preparing for this topic, I definitely, kind of like what the intro mentions, many times the way that we're raised. So one of the things that the scripture talks about, it says in the Bible that life and death is in the power of the tongue. So, as a child and reading the Bible, I was always taught, you speak life into your situation, So whatever you speak, so shall it be. Proverbs 23:7 says, so a man thinketh, so shall it be. And I'm just bringing it up because that's part of my upbringing, that I was always kind of raised that way, you speak it into existence. And I'll even bring it to something even practical as, children, the story of the little engine that could. It talks about the little engine, and, he kind of encourages himself, and he says, I think I can, I think I can, I think I can. And then he eventually, he's able to move along on the train. And so, for me, I definitely agree that your thoughts and words manifest, and you have power and control over that. What else did I want to mention about that? I have one more thing that I wanted to add to that. Also, listening to, celebrities like Bill Gates and interviews that Oprah Winfrey has done, not many people, say, I never thought I could do this. And, I think that part of success is really believing. You really have to believe and think that you can actually go forth whatever it is. I don't think that, going to laws of attraction, if things can really, I'm wondering if things can really manifest if your thoughts kind of contradict the opposite. What are your thoughts?
It's funny that you brought up the celebrities, and also, I guess I'll start off with the beginning, how you brought it up, and I believe that 100%. I think also with me, and the same thing is that all those scriptures that you mentioned are things that ring true to me as well, as far as, a man is what he thinks he is, life and death is in the power of the tongue. And I think all of those things, I think it's important that we actually know what they mean and know how close as individuals and how we were created in God's image that we can manifest. It's almost like we are almost, I'm not saying that we're gods, but we are little almost mini versions of our Creator that has the ability to heal, to have your positive feelings, attract certain people, attract certain circumstances that we desire. We have that power to do that. So I 100% agree that all of those scriptures and the fact that we are, I think I heard one guy say, which was so good, I think when we actually realize that God is closer to us than our breath, then we can actually know that there's nothing that we can't do. We can step out on faith even though there's fear and all those things. So I thought that was really good. And then the part that you spoke about with the celebrities, just like you said, I was listening to Jim Carrey, who is like a super, super believer in the law of attraction. And it's so crazy because most of the times, like a lot of people that you hear and talk about, is all these like different celebrities that really tap into, they call it like their sixth sense or their third eye, and it's almost the same thing, the same concept where, it's like things that we focus a lot on things that we can see rather than the unseen. And those things are so much more vital and real than the things that we actually see, and we allow our emotions or the outside world to dictate our feelings rather than allowing our thoughts and our feelings and our words dictate what happens around us. So I thought that was really, really, really interesting. But Jim Carrey was saying how, this is a quick story, how he said how he wrote a check to himself for $10 million.
Oh, yeah.
And he put it in his wallet. You heard that? You heard his story?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so he wrote a check to himself for $10 million. I thought that was so cool. And he said it started to disintegrate in his wallet. It started to fall apart. And I think he wrote it, I don't know, told me if you heard it, I think it was like 3 years or 5 years prior.
Yeah.
Something like that. And it was like dated for like 1995, June. I'm just making this part up just for story's sake. And he said the day before the check was supposed to actually come to pass, he was signed to do Dumb and Dumber for $10 million.
Wow.
So that is like
that is amazing.
Is no coincidence. Yes, that's no coincidence. That's no coincidence. So I definitely believe, and I think this is another selfish conversation, Shanae, because there's a lot of things that I know personally that I want, and I think it's super important that so many topics I think that can be boiled up into this law of attraction, whether it be forgiveness, our relationship with God, faith, so many things that can love. A lot of our topics to me kind of stir from this, because I think if we learn the concepts of all those other things, I think then this is just kind of like the big umbrella with those things falling in. If we can learn to love freely and forgive easily, I think that law of attraction can even be more effective.
That's really good. I was actually thinking very similarly. I was thinking, looking up the definition of faith, it says complete trust or confidence in someone or something. And so, kind of like what you said about celebrities, it's almost like you have to believe in something beyond what is actually physically in front of you. So it's almost like it's an action of faith that's part of this laws of attraction. And I think that, sometimes celebrities, many of them may be agnostic or may not really believe in God, but it's interesting that people exercise a lot of the principles of the Bible and don't even realize it. You know what I mean? I find that so interesting.
I agree with you. And it's crazy because I was talking to a friend of mine earlier, and it's so true. I think that they, just like you said, they would say like they're agnostic, but they are quick to call on that high. They're able to also tap into that higher power, which is God, that allows them to be and create and do what they do. And I think it's impossible as those individuals to not acknowledge who their source is. You know, so it's weird, just like you said.
You know, even from like a scientific standpoint, and you have a lot of science background, and thinking of laws of attraction, I think you talked about it a little bit last week. They kind of also correlated to the law of gravity, you know, in terms of the magnetic power, you know, that comes from gravity is similar to or correlates to how the law of attraction works.
Yes.
Did you come across that? Go ahead.
Yeah, I did. And the fact that, you know, everything's drawn to us, just like it's like a magnetic pull, you know, and they use that everything is working together with it's just really, really, really deep as far as like vibrations and how we you know, I think one of these philosophers was saying how we're like made up of 85% water, and our thoughts kind of like, you heard this too, right? Kind of vibrate, you know, and they stay I don't know. I just think this whole thing is so interesting, and how it has memory, you know, and we pull from those different memories. And I just think it's so important that when, you know, the negative memories or negative things come up, that we don't initially push it down, because it's there, you know, and they're at the core. And, you know, a lot of it is talk about core beliefs. You know, you could actually, like, what's in your core? What does your core believe?
That's really good. That's good. Even the concept of core beliefs, because going back to your thoughts having power, you know, sometimes we say we believe that this is going to happen, but our core beliefs may feel like, well, I didn't finish school, so I'm not going to get that job or whatever. And so I really think that you really have to be honest with yourself, and like you said, kind of go down to the core and really question and challenge yourself, like, do I really think this could happen? Because I think sometimes we say it out of our mouths, but we don't really think it. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yes. A lot of times. And I think what makes us actually have that shift, and I have to go back, and just like we talk about that, I think a lot of our old topics play into this, and I think a major thing is the relationship that we have with Christ. He is our source. There is nothing that we can do that is without him. We are almost like we're void. We're like nothing, you know. And I think it all stems from that relationship. And when you spend time with him, and when you get to know him, and then your thoughts become his thoughts, your ways become his ways, you dwell on his word, it's almost like you can now take those quantum leaps, as they would say, or take those huge steps, or start things even before you're ready, because you know that you have a source that lives in you that's bigger than you. You know what I mean? Like, how can you have?
It's also, I think, confidence in belief that you have access to those things as well. You know, because like you said, we are made in his image. We are his children. I like to say child of the king a lot. That we have access to that. You know, one of my favorite scriptures that I try to, like, quote a lot to myself is the fact, I think it's in Psalm, it says 84, no good thing does he withhold from those who walk blameless, you know, or, you know, who walk upright. So that means that, like, God's not going to withhold no good thing from you, no good thing, as long as you walk upright. And so do you really walk in that confidence, knowing and believing and trusting that you have access? Like, anything that you want, you have access to. And sometimes I have to, you know, challenge myself, because sometimes I forget that I have that access.
It's true. It's very true. And sometimes even with the access, sometimes I think we're hard on ourselves. We feel like we shouldn't, we shouldn't have this access or certain things available to us because of something that we did. Or, I think some of us gets in the way of it. It's a big,
guilt. Yeah.
Yep, whether it's guilt from something that we did, it stops us from tapping into that access that we have. But I think it's super important that, like I said, like all the topics that we spoke about, it just lends to this topic. And just speaking of, and you know what, too, and I was even thinking because the other day, I went to a concert, and the craziest thing happened. And, I'm thinking to myself, this cannot be, like, a coincidence. And it was a friend of, a longtime friend of ours, my husband and I, and this place is huge. I mean, we went to the venue, and it was huge. It had, like, the floor seating at the floor, and then it had stadium seating and side seating, and there's no way that you could have seen I could, see somebody. I mean, maybe when I'm leaving or whatever, but it just so happened that one of our really close friends was sitting right next to us. And I just thought that was like, how could that happen? And as soon as we came up to them, they were like, oh my gosh, we were just talking about you guys. Wow. And I just thought to myself, like, because it was just funny because I haven't seen him in so long, and it wasn't like he was like behind us or in the next section. We were in seats 3 and 4, and he was in 5 and 6. We were like rubbing shoulders, like it was crazy. So, I mean, some of these things I think are, like you said, I think it's manifestation of our thoughts. One of the things, and I don't mean to keep on rambling on, but one of the things I thought was interesting is when we were watching that, the video, and one of the guys said about like when you start looking for a car or you purchase a car and how you only see that, now you notice that car everywhere. You know, is that a coincidence?
Meanwhile, is that car, those cars, I agree. Like, meanwhile, those cars have always been there, but you're now more aware or alert of the car. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
I think that's so funny. It's
like, and that's and that's the thing. He was saying that with that same concept of us now seeing the car, we can open our minds to choose certain other things that we want to be open to. So if it's happiness, we can do it for that. If it's prosperity, we can see that now. If it's health, there's a line for that, and all of a sudden health will appear. It's that kind of, it's the same concept that we, now we're looking for a specific car, and now all of a sudden we see the car. We can open those same doors for other things in our lives that we can see. You know what I mean? So it was almost like that same concept, which I also thought was super, super interesting.
I want to read something that I thought was interesting in preparing for tonight's topic. It says, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. And then it goes on to state that we could all learn something from this well-known Bible verse. Looking beyond the religious overtone, there's a message to be found in this for everyone. Words consist of vibration and sound. It is these vibrations that create the very reality that surrounds us. Words are the creator, and when I read that, I was like, wow. That, that really spoke to me because I think it's true. Words are really, really powerful.
Oh, yep.
But there was also something that I wanted to say as you shared that story, and I don't know how you feel about this, and then I know we have to talk about our challenge to our listeners tonight, is, like, I think everything, like, nothing happens by coincidence. Like, I'm starting to, like, at this stage in my life, really feel like things are always purpose. Like, sometimes we say, or we underestimate how things kind of unfold, but I'm really, like, as things happen, good or bad, I try to seek, like, the purpose behind it, because I don't think it's by coincidence, And so even as you share that story, many times when things happen, we just we're just like, oh, whatever, I saw my two friends. But, I mean, I think that God was so strategic. There was a purpose. There was a meaning behind why you guys got a chance to kind of sit together and kind of catch up,
Yeah.
And I don't think we sometimes think about, like, why this is happening or what's the purpose behind it.
I agree. I totally agree. Yeah.
So, I don't know if anyone wants to add to our conversation or discussion, but I think this is really interesting. I really do think that the laws of attraction is interesting, but I always think it always somehow, like you said, goes back to God,
Yep.
And one of the things that, as I'm thinking about tonight's challenge, one of the things my mom and my family used to say, like, the word can't was, like, never allowed in our household. And, as a kid, like, how you like, I can't do this homework, But I used to get in trouble for saying the word can't, And as a kid, I'm like, it's not that serious. But now as I'm older, I'm, like, totally seeing the connection now, And that's something that I kind of passed on to my children. Like, you're not allowed to say that. And so the minute they say that, I make them recite the scripture that says, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Because I want them to know, even at an early age, like, there's nothing that you can't do, especially through Christ. So, I just wanted to share that, and I hope that that's encouraging to someone tonight or someone that's listening, that can't should never be a part of your vocabulary, And sometimes we all come across challenges and obstacles and barriers, and we just feel like it's not going to happen, whether, the things that I've had goals in mind, I can't do it, I can't go back to school. But I think sometimes we have to refocus the word can't. And so that's like my challenge tonight, is to kind of challenge yourself and say, what is my can't in my life? Sometimes it's unknown to us. Sometimes we don't even realize how deep-rooted, deep-seated it is. Maybe it's something that someone told us when we were a kid. But, that's my challenge for you guys tonight, is to challenge your can't and see if you can, like, reverse it. What are your thoughts?
I think that's a very good one. Because I was just thinking, when you were saying the word "can," you don't even realize, even as a child, that sets up some of the building blocks of who you think you are, or your core. When you start setting up shop for I can't, then, what else does that build upon? What other limits do you put around yourself because of that word, So I think that's really, really good. That challenge is really good. One of the things that I was thinking about, and I wrote down, and I just want to share, because I'm going to actually even put your can't challenge to the test, and I'm also going to put this challenge as well. And I'm sure you saw it too, but it really stuck out to me. We were watching a video, obviously the same video earlier, which was so good. It said, one of the guys on it said, follow what you are attracted to, right? I think a lot of times many of us are saying, what am my purpose? What's my purpose? What is my calling? What is my, what is that thing? Well, for me, I know I was searching for a while. And, one of the things he said is, follow what you're attracted to. There's a reason why you're attracted to certain people, certain books, certain vacations, certain conversations. There's certain things that you just gravitate towards. He said, don't go against it. Try to stay with those things, and there's reasons. He said one time he said he was like a hippie or whatever, and he just wanted to go to this seminar about wealth building. And his wife was like, what do you mean wealth building? We're people of service, we don't need money, we don't follow money. He's like, no, I really want to go. So he went to it and happened to sit next to this woman who started talking about his cat or his dog, one of his animals that was actually sick and dying, and she was a vet and gave him her number and was able to save his dog's life for like another 7 years. And the doctor that he was going to said the dog was going to die, I think, within the next couple of weeks. So some of the things that I think are that we're attracted to, like, no, I need to go to that. It just sounds interesting to me. Don't negate it, and don't just go with it. If something seems you're attracted to it, or it's gripping your attention, then go with it, because it will lead you to ultimately lead you to where you need to go. So
that's
don't
really
go against the grain. just try to go with the grain. So that's my challenge, because that's what I'm going to try to do, too. So this was a really, really good conversation, Shanae. I enjoyed it.
I thank you for our listeners for tuning into tonight's conversation and discussion. If you guys want to add to the conversation, or if you have a question, you can always email us at thegrayareaconversation@gmail.com. You can also follow us on Facebook and Instagram. You can like our page. You can share our page. And we thank you. Have a great night, everyone.
Have a great night.